Mantis shrimp aren't even shrimp. They're stomatopods, their own unique order entirely that was split from the rest of the crustacean guild around 400 million years ago, and they've been running their own build ever since. The build itself is compact, and they generally range from like 4 to 6 inches, though some of them do reach up to 15. There is a lot of variation in color across several of these species, and in gaming terms, it's the complete opposite of a stealth build. These guys aren't hiding, they don't really need to. And here's what makes this breakdown a little bit different, is it's not just one build. It's actually one build with two completely different weapon specs. We have our smashers and we have our spears. We have a club user and we have a spear user. It's the same class, but a completely different playstyle, both of which are extremely aggressive and extremely deadly. Now, the really unique thing about smashers is that when the club connects, the speed of the strike creates a cavitation bubble, and that is a tiny pocket of vacuum that collapses almost immediately. When it does collapse, it actually creates a secondary shockwave, a flash of light, and temperature that gets pretty close to the surface of the sun. This is a very unique double strike ability, one from the club, one from science. Now, the uniqueness of the spear is that it is barbed, elongated, and designed for soft-bodied targets. The strike speed is still absurdly fast, but instead of that impact, we have a pierce. They're more of an ambush type character, and they'll sit around their burrows, wait for something to drift past, and go extremely quickly to deploy a single high-speed thrust. One shot, one kill. The smasher is going to be your typical brawler, hard targets, breaks the shell, eats the contents, and your spear is a little bit closer to an assassin, soft targets only, but it is relatively instant when it kills things. So while they might both be Mantis Shrimp, they are two completely different characters. Now, Mantis Shrimp are actually burrow builds. They love home creation, and they find a hole in coral, rock, or some type of substrate, or they create their own, and that becomes their base of operations, sometimes for their entire life. They hunt from it, they defend it, and they almost never leave it voluntarily. That makes this territory a very important resource for this build, and it's actually one of the really great examples of how intelligent Mantis Shrimp are. When two Mantis Shrimp actually have a territorial dispute, they don't just, go and smack each other. They actually have these things that I would consider duels. The actual technical term would be called a Telsin spar. Now, one shrimp will present its tailplate, which is the telsin, which is the most heavily armored part of the body, and the other will actually strike that. Then they switch, and they go back and forth, taking turns, hitting each other's shields to assess kind of who is stronger. This isn't random aggression, this is just information gathering. And instead of accidentally injuring each other, which might cause serious issues, they're able to figure out who is actually the stronger of the two. The winner gets the territory, and the loser just gets to move on to another location. No injury, no damages, just easy conflict resolution through a pretty standard structured assessment. One of the other really cool things is that they actually recognize individual players. There's been studies that have shown that Mantis Shrimp can actually identify and remember specific neighbors. And from this memory, they're actually able to adjust their behavior based on past encounters. It's pretty similar to reputation in a lot of the games that you play. If your reputation's good, you won't have any problems. If you got off on the wrong foot, they might not like you very much. But regardless, it just goes to show you how intelligent these shrimp actually are. So not only are they extremely dangerous, high DPS class cannons, they're actually very intelligent and make very critical decisions extremely easily. Mantis shrimp have 16 types of color receptors. Humans only have 3. Everyone hears that and kind of assumes that this build sees the world in colors that we can't actually imagine. That it's running some kind of expanded update that the rest of us just don't have access to. And the truth is even weirder, and honestly more impressive. Now what's actually happening is each one of those receptors actually fires independently. So what this means is that where humans see, red and green equals yellow, they're actually looking at individual wavelengths of color, which allows it to identify specific colors without any processing delay. And for a predator that needs to react in milliseconds, whether it's smashing or spearing, that's a huge advantage. And that's just completely ignoring the fact that the eyes can move independently. Each eye is able to perceive its own depth. The mantis shrimp doesn't even need to turn its head to track a target. So, where does this mantis shrimp land on the tier list? Now, obviously, it's gonna be an S tier DPS, but with a very specific asterisk. There aren't too many counters to this build, but there are some that there's just absolutely no counterplay. Large octopus builds, certain reef fish that strike first, it's pretty easy for them to actually get the advantage. But in a fair one-on-one fight with something of similar size, the mantis shrimp is very, very successful. The asterisk, however, is dependency on their burrows. Their burrows are integral into their lives. They give them their hunting position, they give them a defensive cover. It's just like having your own guild hall. It's just extremely helpful. So without this, the glass cannon build is very, very useless. Like I'm sure some of you have dealt with in a lot of video games when you go glass cannon. You get to do a lot of damage, but it also means you die instantaneously. However, due to the fact that they are so intelligent and still able to deal all of this damage, I'm gonna keep it at the S tier. The mantis shrimp isn't broken because it hits hard, it's broken because it hits hard, sees everything, and is smart enough to know when not to fight. Next time, we're gonna be going over the crabs that aren't crabs. And yes, that's exactly what I said. There are crabs that are not crabs. Some of your favorite crabs aren't actually true crabs, just like how the mantis shrimp isn't a shrimp.